Welcome everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today for the launch of REACH 2030. My name is Melissa James, and I'm the CEO of REACH, a regional economic action coalition serving the Central Coast with the mission to increase regional economic prosperity through big thinking, bold action, and regional collaboration. We are so excited to introduce to you REACH 2030 today. REACH 2030 is an action plan for job creation on the Central Coast, created in partnership with government, education, business, and community organizations across SLO and Santa Barbara counties. We have been building REACH 2030 for over the last year, but what we have been building is more than a plan. We have been building an economic impact organization with the scale and the capacity to chart a new course for our economic future. REACH has stepped onto the field to meet a need for regional leadership by bringing leaders together to tackle some of our biggest challenges and unlock remarkable opportunities that, if achieved, would bring transformational change to our region, our communities, and the lives of thousands of Central Coast residents. What we know is the status quo is simply not good enough. If we want the people of the Central Coast today and our kids tomorrow to have the opportunity to build a life, a home, a family, and a career on the Central Coast, we must shift course. REACH was formed, and this plan was created to meet a pressing need. A quick look at the landscape we were facing before we entered the global pandemic of COVID-19 tells us that people were struggling. In our region, before the pandemic, 2 out of every 3 jobs paid less than $50,000 a year, and these low-wage jobs have been growing faster than any other income category. Before COVID, 1 in 4 of our middle-class residents did not have $500 in the case of an emergency, and 53% of our middle-class residents said they were likely to leave the Central Coast. Before COVID, 1 in 10 residents said they were worried about having enough money each month for food. That number doubled to 1 in 5 residents in our Latinx communities. And before COVID, 86% of residents did not believe that our young people today would be able to afford a life on the Central Coast as adults. And finally, as we look at the times before COVID, despite what was the longest economic expansion in our nation's history, 1 in 2 of our jobs on the Central Coast had a median wage of $25,000 a year. We still don't know the 2nd and 3rd degree impacts of COVID on the economic well-being of our businesses, our employees, or their families, but we know that people were struggling before, and it has only gotten worse. Over 40% of all jobs under $40,000 have been lost. About 48,000 jobs, marking the worst unemployment we've seen in the last 80 years at 13.7%. But in all of this, COVID-19 is teaching us something extraordinarily important. It's teaching us that we are part of an integrated whole, and our individual actions determine the health of that whole. This crisis simply can't be met with disjointed and fragmented responses. It requires collaboration, coordination, and a deep understanding that we are interdependent upon one another, and we need to work together to ensure a healthy, prosperous future for our region and for the people in it. This approach that recognizes our interdependence and need for regional collaboration is the ethos behind REACH, and it's central to our economic recovery and our post-pandemic rebuilding. It's this mindset of collaborative action that was put to the test over the last few months as REACH jumped in to support the rapid response and the safe reopening planning of our economies and our communities in partnership with SLO and Santa Barbara counties. The crisis, we all know, is far from over, and the need for collaboration and our collective response to the immediate need of COVID-19 remains critical. That said, while we have been working proactively to address the immediate crisis and the changing landscape, we have not taken our eye off of the long-term needs of building resilience into our local economy. We must address the immediate needs of today while also investing in a long-term vision and plan for a sustainable economic future that ensures our region has the economic diversity and resilience to withstand future economic shocks. Reach 2030 is that plan, and there were many people that participated in its development. I'd like to thank the Deloitte team, our strategy partner, that worked with us to engage 1,000 residents, 200 leaders over the course of 8 workshops to develop this 10-year action plan focused on Central Coast job creation. But we all know a plan is only as good as the people behind it committed to putting it into action. In parallel to this plan, a growing regional economic action coalition has been established that includes many people on this call who have participated and invested time and money to build out this path forward. I'd like to first take a moment to thank our board of directors who have dedicated their time and expertise to research successful regional models across the nation and rolled up their sleeves to design and build Reach from the ground up. Our board includes business leaders and key partners from the Coalition of Chambers and Visit SoCal and Vandenberg Air Force Base. I'd also like to thank our government and education partners who have invested in and participated in the development of the Reach 2030 plan. SLO County, Cal Poly, and the cities of Santa Maria, Paso Robles, Atascadero, Morro Bay, San Luis Obispo, Pismo Beach, Grover Beach, and Arroyo Grande. And our Founders Circle. This growing group of visionary leaders provides strategic guidance to our organizational leadership. I'd like to thank Rick Stolmeyer, Nick Tompkins, Jeff Armstrong, Bill Borgsmiller, Brad Wild, and Ty Safrino. And our growing Reach Council members. These businesses are committed to the vision and are investing time and money into the implementation of this plan. Since the start of 2020, these 23 individuals and businesses from our Founders Circle and our Reach Council have committed over $2.1 million, helping us reach 60% of our 5-year target from the private sector. They are betting on our ability to build a much better future for our region. Together, we are committed to lifting up all people across our region by ensuring that our residents today and our kids tomorrow have the opportunity to learn, work, and thrive on the Central Coast because they have a job that affords them a life, a home, and a future here. Today is an invitation to you to join us in that commitment. So let's jump into the Reach 2030 plan now. To get us started, I'd like to take the next 2 minutes to share a quick video that gives an overview of Reach 2030. Following that video, Rick Stolmeyer, founder and CEO of MindBody and founding member of Reach, will share more about our Reach 2030 goal.
Good morning, everybody. As that inspiring video so beautifully depicts, what we're here to talk about today is increasing the economic opportunity in our region, about the creation of good paying jobs. And as many of you may have heard, this comes at a momentous time in my life because I'm about to change my job. We just announced yesterday I'll be handing off the CEO role at MindBody, and I'll become a board director and executive chair. And this is something I've been wanting for a very long time, and I'm very excited about on a personal level. Among other things, it's going to give me more time for activities like this because my family and I are deeply committed to the Central Coast. I'm handing off the baton to Josh McCarter as the new CEO. He's been working side by side with me for more than 2 years. He's utterly committed to MindBody's purpose and vision, and he's utterly committed to keeping our headquarters in San Luis Obispo and our office in Santa Maria. It's been a year and a half since many of us here gathered at the Cliffs Resort in Pismo Beach to announce the formation of Project Hourglass. And you know, in that meeting, we talked about the economic challenges, the things that Melissa just spoke to that face us in our region. And we talked about this sort of breakthrough idea that we could think regionally, that we could recognize the truth that we really have, and that is that San Luis Obispo and Santa Barbara counties are integrally interconnected. People live and work in both places, businesses operate in both locations, as does MindBody, and also that we are competing in a global economy and that we need to do so more effectively. Well, what was true a year and a half ago is even more true now. Everything that's happened to us in the first 7 months of this year, we don't have to recount right now, but we know that it has drawn into sharp relief the utter urgency of creating a diverse economy that is vibrant and that's resilient. It's not dependent on any one sector or on any one source of employment. And so those of us that came together to be the founding leaders of REACH, we really have redoubled our commitment in recent months. And that commitment has resulted in this REACH 2030 action plan, and I'm really excited about it. You know, this plan acknowledges two essential truths. First of all, nothing that happens to us here in this beautiful region we call home is happening in isolation from the rest of the world. We, like every other region in the world, are competing on a global scale. And most of the high-paying jobs we're going to talk about today, not all, but most, are fungible. That means those jobs can go anywhere in the world, and talented people can choose to live virtually anywhere in the world. That's both an opportunity and a challenge for us. Second, our region has remarkable intrinsic assets. We have what it takes to compete successfully if we coordinate properly. We have what it takes to flourish in this challenging environment. We have this exceptional quality of life. We have an amazing pool of creative and entrepreneurial talent that punches well above our weight. We have a vibrant educational system from K through 12 to our community colleges and to our world-class universities. And every year, these institutions pull in the best and the brightest from around the world into our region. And we have a growing base of innovative and growing businesses across multiple sectors. I started MindBody in my garage 20 years ago because frankly, I couldn't find a good job. That has changed fundamentally on the Central Coast, and it's going to continue to change in the years ahead if we do the right things. We have the unique assets of Vandenberg Air Force Base and Diablo Canyon. These are assets that are in transition that provide enormous opportunities for us, and we're going to talk about that today. We have this wonderfully vibrant agricultural business community that includes several of the most productive and renowned wine regions in the world. That's a key element to our economy. And we're perfectly sized. You know, we're small enough that we can really know each other as community leaders, and we can have this sense of connection for those of us that are proud to live on the Central Coast. And we're large enough at the same time to be a meaningful economic force in the world. All of this enables us to set audacious goals for regional job creation in the decade ahead. Our goal is to create 15,000 more high-quality, good-paying jobs across our region in the next 10 years than would have been created otherwise. In other words, there's natural growth going on right now, and we would expect job creation to happen in the decade ahead. We're striving for 15,000 more. And for those jobs to count in our metric, they need to earn at least $50,000 per year. We arrived at this 15,000 jobs, $50,000 a year metrics after careful analysis of the local workforce, the cost of living here, the population trends, and economic projections. And I know quite a bit about creating good paying jobs. My body currently provides about 800 of these good paying jobs here in our community. And that started from four of us, starting on a wing and a prayer with very little capital in my garage in the Arbors in San Luis Obispo. The principal way to create those kinds of jobs is to foster the growth of businesses that create high value products and services, usually that can be sold on a global basis. Those are the kinds of businesses that we need. And it requires a mix of many different strategies and initiatives to get more of those businesses, to foster them in our community. And we've organized all of these myriad things into four distinct strategic priorities that are contained in our Reach 2030 plan. And each of those right now are going to be presented by one of our key leaders. And I'm honored to introduce the first of those, Nick Tompkins, owner of NKT Commercial, but most importantly, my landlord, and I think one of the best landlords in the world. So Nick, why don't you take it from here?
Thank you, Rick, and thank you, and congratulations too in your new role. That's exciting news, and look forward to great things coming from you as you have in the past quite a few years. So one of the things that I've observed in more than 30 years of developing and managing projects up and down the San Luis Obispo and Santa Barbara counties is that each community grapples with many of the same challenges and the same obstacles that to reach their full potential. Yet these communities often end up competing with each other for a slice of the pie. And so when Reach was founded and I spoke to him, I was really excited to take a look at the region of the opportunity to bring the communities together to find common solutions to our shared challenges and act as a region rather than individual communities competing with each other. Well, one of these challenges right now that we're all facing is undoubtedly the impact of COVID-19. And virtually every sector has been affected, but our regional tourism and backbone of tourism and hospitality, one of our largest employment sectors, has been the hardest hit. And it may take a significant amount of time to return to pre-pandemic levels of demand. And that really kind of accentuates and puts a premium on investing in our resources and building resilience into our economy, and specifically in high growth, high productivity industries. We must diversify our economy to ensure that we're able to withstand future shocks as they arrive. And one of our strategic strategies at Reach is to accelerate job growth in target industries, increasing the number of high-paying, high-quality, good-paying jobs in industries where, importantly, we already have a strong foothold by building on our strengths. The industries that we've targeted are agri-tech, where the region's pioneering spirit is pushing the boundaries of our agricultural heritage through increased yields, efficiency, and profitability, while taking a look, and to give an example, is the grape growers that have moved up the supply chain, and now they don't just sell grapes, they sell wine. Lettuce growers that don't sell lettuce, they sell packaged salads, bringing those dollars back to the region rather than shipping them out. Renewable energy and clean tech, and building on our success with solar, pushing into offshore wind generation, and exploring creative options for repurposing the plant at Diablo Canyon and at Morro Bay for research and innovation. Aerospace, defense, and precision engineering and manufacturing, taking advantage of the region's 3 military installations, 16 airfields, and Cal Poly's world-class engineering programs, jumping at opportunities presented by commercial space, drones, and future-oriented fields. And of course, the wide-ranging world of technology, which includes not only software and IT, but drives everything from healthcare and finance to government and education. This priority is important, not only because these fields hold promise to be prime drivers of high wage growth jobs, but they also stand to spur growth in other areas, including professional services, healthcare, and the trades. Reach is putting this priority into action excuse me, by bringing the industry leaders to the table to set strategies for work growth, for job growth, and working in partnership with government, education, and community organizations. By bringing the private sector to regional table, we're harnessing the ingenuity and the know-how to create the opportunities and jobs our region needs. In order to chart this path forward and create opportunities for our residents, our children, to build a life, and as Reach is, you have to consider things like housing, infrastructure, education, and basically things that go well beyond traditional business attraction efforts. So to share more about the importance of planning for our future, I'd like to turn it over to Dee Lacey, a friend and owner of Lacey Livestock and one of Reach's earliest champions.
Thank you, Nick. As a multi-generational North County cattle rancher and an ag business owner, I've grown concerned about the future generations and our region's ability to thrive. We've underinvested in housing and in infrastructure, and we've fallen short on building sufficient housing. I became an early champion of what was then called Hourglass Project because of their recognition of our working families and businesses that need these growth barriers removed. They are essential to building a life and a livelihood in Central Coast. Our priority to breaking down the barriers to job creation calls addressing our housing, our transportation, and our water constraints, as well as financing the infrastructure needed along the way. It also includes another element that came to the forefront during this shutdown, the broadband connections that were so critical to keep so many people working. Also revealed broad inequities in access across our communities. These elements, housing, transportation, water, and connectivity, form the building blocks for virtually all economic activity. They support the workforce needed for business growth and must be solved in a regional context. That means the work of economic development must be tied into work of regional planning, bringing the public and private sectors together to collaborate on long-term regional strategies. I think these strategies must involve increasing the amount of housing availability and affordability for that workforce, planning for the future for mobility, updating our current rapidly aging infrastructure to consider new options for bus and rail service, and partnerships with app-based services in the name of mitigating both traffic congestion and greenhouse gas emissions. We must update our water capacity, infrastructure, and resilience for navigating this next drought, because it's going to come and it may last for quite a while. These elements are not only central to building a sustainable regional economy, they play an important role in stimulating our economic recovery in the wake of this coronavirus fallout. And we must move forward in innovative ways to pay for them, because no one community can tackle these challenges alone, as we've tried to do in the past. Public-private partnerships, new financing tools, government grants, and economic stimulus opportunities all hold potential to drive the infrastructure investments that we need in this region, especially in this challenging pandemic recovery area. We have tremendous opportunity, and Reach is focused on leveraging these opportunities in the only way it can be achieved, us working together with a spirit of regional cooperation. Now I'd like to turn it over to Reach board member and CEO of Marion Regional Medical Center, Sue Anderson.
Thank you, Dee. Yes, hi, I'm Sue Anderson, and I'm the president and CEO of Marion Regional Medical Center in Santa Maria and Arroyo Grande. And like Nick, I was really drawn to Reach because of the regional focus that it had. You know, when I think about our hospital, we employ 2,400 employees, and they live throughout San Luis Obispo County and Santa Maria and throughout Santa Barbara counties. As a regional referral center for patients, we see our patients come from both counties too. So we're really a regional focus, and that's what attracted me. You know, nothing has probably been more shown us the need for a regional focus than the recent COVID-19 epidemic. You know, when Reach stepped in and really led efforts to bring the counties together, to increase healthcare capacity, centralize relief and resource information, and drive the planning to reopen our economies, it really showed what a regional thought process all of this can have. In addition to taking on urgent needs, Reach is looking farther out at preparing the residents for jobs of today and tomorrow by expanding and integrating education opportunities. You know, our region is so fortunate to have a strong public education system, and with many high-performing K through 12 districts, 3 longstanding community colleges, and then UCSB and Cal Poly, we're very fortunate. I mean, when we recruit physicians to the area or staff to the area, that's one of the selling points, is the educational opportunities in this area. But the career landscape's changing faster than ever, and our education systems need to expand with it. To start, this calls for expanding the opportunities and options for earning 4-year degrees, not just UCSB and Cal Poly, who cannot alone meet this demand. We need to look at options like satellite education centers, or refining and enhancing online learning like so many have learned over these last few months. But we also have to recognize that education today is not something that stops once you get your degree. It's kind of a lifelong journey with off and on ramps and off ramps. And, you know, with changes, with emerging technologies, shifting business demands, our systems must adapt to meet the demand for workforce talent, education, learners at every stage of life, and align this training and education with the needs of the businesses and industries in which they work that are in our communities. An example would be in healthcare. We have an opportunity for a lot of well-paying jobs for techs, things like OR techs, cath lab techs, pharmacy and physical therapy techs, radiology techs, perfusionists, and we know other industries in our area probably too have good jobs for machinists or trades. But those all require specialized education and need to be part of the education we supply in this area. With us, we have people go out of the area for the education, and then they stay out of the area. So this priority is important because nothing correlates more closely to a prosperous economy than the education and skills of the workforce. Education lifts people out of poverty and connects them with quality job opportunities. With automation estimated to affect 30% of our workforce in the next 5 to 10 years, we need to be ready to prepare workers with those skills. So to introduce our last strategic priority, it's my pleasure to turn it over to Reach board member Ryan Dunn, who's the founder and CEO of Mantis Composites. Ryan?
Thanks, Sue. I founded Mantis Composites in 2016, and the goal was to bring about the future of lightweight aerospace technologies. And we did this by developing a new 3D printing process to manufacture aerospace parts. And founding in the Central Coast was not an accident. The founders met at Cal Poly, and we used the Hot House and Center of Innovation and Entrepreneurship for a lot of our early stages of development. As an entrepreneur, serving on the Reach board provides me the opportunity to help improve the environment to create more businesses like mine. The Central Coast has all of the necessary resources to become a startup hub and become a key area for high-tech startups like my own. Reach connects the resources necessary to produce this. I'm going to give you an example of 2 of the types of assets that we have on the Central Coast that are really unrivaled. Diablo Canyon and Vandenberg Air Force Base. Both of these are economic engines, hubs for innovation, and spark points for businesses like mine. As an entrepreneur, I look for key players in growing markets. Vandenberg is incredibly well situated in the commercial space race. Diablo has R&D in renewable and clean energy possibilities, as well as extensive desalination capability. These are once-in-a-lifetime shots, and timing on these opportunities is critical. Reach is focused on harnessing these assets and opportunities at a critical time to produce the advancements we need. I'm going to take Vandenberg as a specific example. Many people look at Vandenberg and only think of the military or local aspects, looking at Longpot primarily. but the opportunity at Vandenberg is enormous. Vandenberg is one of the largest commercial space launch facilities in the world. That's a $350 billion market currently, but it's estimated to reach 2.7 trillion 3 decades from now. This means that you can create an entire ecosystem of cutting-edge companies like mine, companies like Trust Automation, Zone 5 Technologies, ES Aero, and White Fox Defense Technologies. Businesses like this provide the steady, game-changing growth to regions like the Central Coast. Reach is already taking action to push this forward. We're looking at advanced industries and how we need to navigate the complex regulations and the stakeholders, including government, corporate, and community needs, in order to produce this growth. Reach is reducing the friction that these limitations bring about. Importantly, Reach is founded on action, not admiring problems, but finding the opportunities and taking action that's critical to solving them. And to talk more about that, I'm going to introduce my fellow Reach board member, Matthew Woods.
Thanks, Ryan. It's great to be here today. My name is Matthew Woods. I'm the Chief Revenue Officer of Apartment List, a real estate tech company headquartered in San Francisco. And I spent the last 5 years working for various companies in exec roles in Silicon Valley. Having moved over 15 times in my life, the last 3 with my wife and our 3 boys, I'm one of the many people who've made a very conscious and intentional choice to make the Central Coast my home. I'm investing my time and energy into Reach because I want my kids to be able to make their future homes here. And the status quo today is not going to cut it. So I want to spend a few minutes this morning talk about some of the successes at Reach. At Reach, we're not just talkers and planners, we're doers. In the last 18 months, we've created a high impact team, momentum, and results. But we're not doing this alone. We've established a network of chambers of commerce and economic development partners, cementing active relationships in government and education across the 2 counties so we can speak loudly and clearly with one voice. We've earned attention and a seat at the table in statewide advocacy organizations. Our partnership with GoBiz, the Governor's Office of Business Development and Economic Development, has led to investment in both dollars and resources into our overall economic strategy and specific initiatives like that at Vandenberg. Working with Vandenberg, we've developed partnerships that put the state in a position to compete for billions, possibly even trillions of dollars in the future of commercial space. Just this month, Relativity Space announced an agreement with the US Air Force to invest $10 million to build a new launch facility at Vandenberg. Jeff Bezos' space company, Blue Origin, has also expressed interest in this important work that Reach is driving. With the support of Vandenberg, GoBiz, Cal Poly, Deloitte, Congressman Carbajal, Governor Newsom, and our local communities, we're making the play for Vandenberg to become the permanent US Space Command headquarters. Achieving this would be huge for our region, huge in attracting commercial enterprises and in job creation. We've aligned bipartisan interests of state, federal, and local elected officials. The county, Cal Poly on a reuse strategy for Diablo. We're both focused on the long-term strategy while ensuring we're sweating the details to ensure we're advocating for our community interests. Reach has spurred work on SLO County's first ever cross-sector regional housing and infrastructure plan and completed the first phase of a pilot project with one of our local school districts to develop land to generate these efforts, to generate new revenue streams for our local governments and infill development that brings community benefit with much needed housing. The leadership role Reach has taken in our region's response to COVID is one of the reasons I'm most proud to work with Reach. Reach jumped in immediately, pivoting its focus and energy to help our region set the course for a coordinated response. As Sue mentioned, Reach worked on securing needed medical supplies, boosting healthcare capacity, and assisting SLO County with daily support in the Emergency Operations Center. We help businesses find relief by mobilizing our large and diverse network of partners to house resources in one centralized website and organized a cross-sector coalition of leaders in both counties to coordinate and respond to emerging needs. Reach has then moved into recovery mode and worked closely with both SLO and Santa Barbara counties on plans for reopening our economies, pulling in levels of engagement and input that would be otherwise impossible, and in hours and days, rather than the weeks and months such efforts would normally require. This unprecedented effort really underscores that REACH is an incredibly agile organization and able to strategically meet the needs of the moment. Independent of this incredibly important and time-consuming work with COVID, the REACH team kept the ball moving on the core initiatives. REACH has been key to ensuring we build an economy that is more resilient and more inclusive down the road. The combination of vision, agility, and execution, and an unwavering dedication to shape a brighter future for all who live here, makes REACH a formidable organization, and one that I'm extremely proud to be part of.
Thank you, Matthew, and to all of our board members and founders. It's my pleasure now to introduce Egan Turplin, a senior advisor for economic development in the governor's office, who's played an instrumental role in the governor's Regions Rise Together initiative. We at REACH have worked closely with the governor's office in advancing our region's economic strategy and are thrilled to have the commitment of time from the governor's office and joining us to advance commercial space enterprise at Vandenberg Air Force Base. Egan has worked at the intersection of economic development, regional planning, transportation, workforce preparation, with a background that includes the Bay Area Urban Policy think tank SPUR, global consultancy ICF International, and the New York City Mayor's Office. He's here to share with us today the priority of the state to focus on regions like ours. Egan, thank you so much for joining us today.
Great, thank you very much for having me, Melissa. And it's wonderful to be a part of this conversation. What you're doing today is indicative of kind of the best practice in regional planning, regional economic development, when we're thrilled to partner with you on that. I just wanted to share a couple of words from the perspective of the administration. As was mentioned, I work with the Governor's Office of Planning and Research and the Governor's Office of Business and Economic Development that I know has been a very close partner with you. And so I wanted to say a few words about the administration's initiative that we called Regions Rise Together. Say a little bit about that, say a little bit about the importance of partnering with you all in an ongoing basis. And then finally, just a few thoughts about some opportunities that we see where you are as well. So the first is that when the governor came in a year and a half ago, really wanted to make an emphasis. The governor's a regionalist. And what that means is to understand that we are a state that is made up of many, many distinct and diverse places. And so we launched Regions Rise Together a year ago when Lenny Mendonça was running GoBiz and Kate Gordon, my colleague at OPR, as an initiative that really tried to look at the distinctive nature of all of the regions of California, but also how they're interconnected. And those two ideas are extremely important. And it was really grounded around three principles. One is that we have to change our mental map of California. Too often, a lot of the work and effort focuses on a narrow set of regions and opportunities, but we have to see opportunity everywhere. And that comes from people coming together in diverse ways across the regions. And the second one is to do work that's regions up. What you are doing is precisely that, coming together as a region, identifying your assets, but also setting a very large and inclusive table for that conversation. That regions up planning is one that we want to support and engage with. But third is this notion of improving the interconnectivity, the connective tissue that makes us one state. Right now, we're seeing the need for broadband as a huge example of interconnective tissue. Investments in rail, investments in higher education, water, those kinds of issues are really what tie us together as California. So Regions Rise Together was this initiative that was launched to encourage this kind of regional partnership and regional economic development. And since it started, we're fortunate to have been able to make some key investments in a number of regions, and hopefully moving forward there will be more assets and resources available to do that. But I think those of you that may have looked at the budget in the current state budget, there were some dollars invested in a couple of key regional initiatives where people had come together in the past. So that effort, we also try to use the phrase high road economic development. And in the current moment that we're in, we really are thinking about how do we bounce forward to a different kind of economic recovery. And as you think about the need to bring quality jobs to your region, that's very much in the spirit of high road economic development and really putting inclusion and equity at the center of the table to make sure that everybody in every part of your community, all types of industries are able to thrive and succeed within your respective region. We also talk a lot about the notion of a kind of a just transition. We're all engaging with transforming our economies, the industries, but how do we do so in a way that moves everybody, moves all the industries forward in a way that's truly just, and putting people back to work in a recovery that's quality jobs. And this notion of an integrated approach as well, where we think not just about creating jobs, but creating good jobs, not just about growing at all costs, but growing in a way that's sustainable. And I know that those are core values and principles in the Central Coast and in each of your respective communities. The second is that I wanted to really say that we're a partner with you, and I'm pleased that in the budget that was approved, we were able to maintain some of the investment in staff. So GoBiz, the Governor's Office of Business and Economic Development, we made a push last summer, actually imagining we want to have more staff on the ground that are helping support regional economic development efforts like the one that you're all involved in here. And that was able to stay in the budget. And so there will be a staff person from GoBiz that will be focused on the Central Coast, helping make the linkages between the work you're doing and the important efforts at the state, helping advance these conversations with Vandenberg, helping advance other types of efforts and opportunities as they come forward. So that's important, and it's critical. Your region was one of those that was identified in it. And I think that comes from a recognition both of the need and the opportunity, as well as a willing partner, right? And I think that's important to have partners on the ground to be able to work with. And of course, through OPR and through GoBiz, this ongoing involvement, the MOU with Vandenberg, those are important statements and principles. And we would all like for there to be more resources to go into that, but actually the resource of time and staff and involvement, it's there, it will continue, and we want to kind of state that and encourage that. But finally, just to say a few words about kind of the huge potential and opportunity you have as a region, that we're all rethinking what drives our economies and where they're going and what recovery looks like. And it's gonna build from the assets that we have, looking at them, thinking them, but there's some new opportunities that could emerge. And I think you're all very aware of what happens in this world of telework. Those of us on the call now are calling in from different parts of the state, maybe even different parts of the country and world. And that enables people to live and work in certain areas. Yet we are seeing the likelihood of people wanting to be proximate still to some of the major employment centers. So to the extent to which some people already have and will relocate into your region, but want to stay closely connected to the Los Angeles economy or the Bay Area economy, or within your respective regional economy to slightly different places. That will put pressure on some communities and this housing stock that's there, but it also brings opportunities for quality jobs, but this requirement that we have good broadband. So I think it allows us to, first of all, see the interconnectivity between our regions and our economies, but also really think about how do we grow in a way that's truly sustainable. And as we think forward to the impacts of climate change, how we grow is a core part of that and where we grow. And I think this is the moment we're in now gives us an opportunity to think to that. And one of the assets you have that we've heard a lot about is actually your rail line. And that right now not a lot of people are moving around on transit, but over the coming years that's going to shift, and having a rail line that links you up and down and certainly to some of the other parts of the state is an asset that you can build on, and our communities, your communities can grow around that. So I wanted to join you today to say a few words of encouragement and support, to say that we are your partners. We are excited about what you're doing. This kind of effort is precisely the kind of effort we want to support and encourage. It's what we're seeing in some other parts of California, and we look forward to continuing to be involved, to staying involved, and to seeing the great work that comes out of REACH moving forward. So thank you, Melissa, and others for allowing me to say a few words as part of your conversation today.
Thank you so much, Egan. And we really do truly appreciate and experience the great partnership with the GoBiz office. And we really also appreciate the Regions Rise initiative. Hello, my name is Andrew Hackelman, and I'm proud to be a member of the REACH team. After living and working all over the world for the last couple of decades as an Air Force officer, there's nothing more rewarding than investing in my hometown community here and being able to return and take advantage of the opportunity of working with so many great leaders and partners like we have in this community. As you've been hearing today, collaboration is deeply embedded in our work and our approach. We know that when leaders from the private sector, government, education, and the community come together to confront challenges, align and share ideas, and focus resources, ingenuity abounds and solutions emerge. In this way, we can meet our challenges and accomplish more than any one community or business could individually. I want to take a moment to share how we're set up to scale reach to meet the ambitious jobs goal that our friend Rick Stolmeyer talked to us about just a few minutes ago. Let me begin with our partner network, which is made up of our partners in local economic development work, such as the Coalition of Chambers, Visit SlowCal, the Center for Innovation and Entrepreneurship out of Cal Poly, the Econ Alliance, and many others. Our model is rooted in optimizing and strengthening the work of these partners so that we can accelerate good paying job creation collectively. Within the REACH network of volunteers, we have action teams as well. And they're made up of industry experts and community leaders that are needed to drive specific initiatives found within the REACH 2030 plan. These teams are nimble and focused, and such as the action team we have set up for Vandenberg Air Force Base and that project to expand commercial space industry activity. We will be designing additional action teams as well based on the initiatives that we launch, such as the drive for infrastructure improvement and growing our target industries. Our action teams feed up to the REACH Council, and the REACH Council that you see here on the slide is the meeting place for our REACH investors. They represent the region's leaders across business, education, and government. And they come together 4 to 6 times a year as a group to design the tactical and operational recommendations and economic actions of the REACH 2030 plan. And this committee is central to our organization, and they are the direct body that advises our REACH Board of Directors. And they're going to begin meeting this fall for their first meeting for our year 1 plan of action. The other engagement opportunity for REACH investors is what's called our Founders Circle, also shown on the slide. This is a strategic advisory group to REACH leadership that is critical to identifying and addressing transformational opportunities and issues on the horizon facing our community and our region. This is the team that met weekly throughout the COVID-19 crisis, which continues to support one another and to help guide the organization's direction. Finally, all of the work of the organization is directed by the strategic vision of our diverse board of directors, which is comprised of leading CEOs and executives from across the Central Coast that range in age, industry representation, and come from throughout our region. I'm really proud of every leader in this board of directors giving their time, their energy, and resources and experience to the REACH organization. It's a unique team that truly and deeply cares about our community. But this work will only get done with the help of all of you and who will continue to shape and evolve this work moving forward. In fact, right now, we'd like to hear from you through a quick poll. You've heard from us on the priorities outlined in REACH 2030. Now we'd like to hear from you. We'd like to hear from you on what you think will make the biggest impact for our region. So if you would, please take the next 30 seconds to read the question that will have popped up on your screen and select the top 2 priorities that you believe will make the biggest impact on job creation in the Central Coast region. If only you could see what I'm seeing right now, all the dozens and dozens of people voting on things. This is really, really fascinating. All right, thank you so much for your input. So real time, these results are really interesting here, and I'd like to thank you for taking so much time with us today to hear what we have to say, but also providing this input. And we see like a clear leader here emerging with target industries that we've talked about today. But of course, like we're always hearing and talking about, is the need to invest in infrastructure and build more housing. So thank you for sharing your perspective with us. It is meaningful, and it will be something that we take forward into our prioritization and planning. All right. So now, this is my favorite part of this event. It's when I get to stop talking, but also to get to introduce a great friend and someone whose time and energy and resources have been put into the creation and operation of Reach since the beginning. And that's Ty Sofreno, our board chair and CEO of Trust Automation. Ty?
Thank you, Andrew. So many of you know me, and I think back on my childhood and my perspective of the future. There are two things that stand out really clear in my mind. One, from a very early age, I was going to be an engineer. And two, I dreamed of going to space, but knew that was not really a practical destiny for me. So the first one made my parents very proud until in middle school they realized I intended to be a train engineer, not the kind of engineer that builds things, designs things, and does otherwise. And fortunately in high school, I found a different love of engineering, the one that I'm part of now, and I followed that path instead, and much to the relief of my parents. The second, the space one, has taken a turn I would have never imagined. And it's something which I knew, and reason why my destiny wasn't there, that I wasn't going to be compatible with. But it's something which you always hoped as a child would turn into that future that you saw and heard about. And realize this is someone coming from the generation of Star Wars just came out, as corny as that first movie is when you see it now. It was amazing when I was a kid. So I realized that I just wasn't going to be compatible with space. I get motion sick in a sports car going straight on a freeway, and riding in a rocket at 0 Gs was not going to be in the cards for me. But shockingly, due to this private-public collaboration which has occurred, which really couldn't be imagined a decade ago, space is going to be accessible, and I believe my boys will view visits to space in the same way that people view those boutique cruises to the Antarctica today. It's not for everyone, but it's accessible to way more people than we could have ever imagined not that long ago. A year and a half ago, a group of founders realized that we must do better for this generation and the many generations to come on the Central Coast. That a private industry led with public agency collaboration was the critical approach missing in economic development. We built a vision, then we built a team, and finally an organization with capability and scale to not just create reports and concepts, but to take action in creating a lasting impact. Then this crazy, wackadoodle, bizarre COVID-19 reality occurred, and that need for collaborative action has been never more critical to an area, and extremely critical to our future. Private industry is built on decisive, immediate actions and a willingness to adapt and change along the way. When we pair this with our public partners, we choose to go to the moon movement for our region and its economic future. These types of shifts in thinking always require a small group willing to take the first step. That is why Trudy and I changed how we and Trust Automation have participated in economic development over the past 30 years and made the decision to join the other founders to invest in our company's future, our region's future, and our children's future. This cannot be a spectator sport. This is put on a jersey, get on the field. This is get your hands dirty and lock arms with others to win sports. We spent the first year developing something that can be invested in and will produce a meaningful with lasting results. As we set forth with our first 5 years of the 10-year plan, we are seeking others to join us, to put on that jersey and to get on the field. It will take everyone willing and then some to accomplish this. It's a daunting task. It's all I have, but all I have to do to be encouraged is to look at what's been accomplished over the last 18 months with a really small team and really a group of people dedicated and showing what can be done if we're all dedicated to this. The leadership which has joined us over these past months is humbling. The level of interaction and collaboration is inspiring, and the future looks promising if we join together. We have an incredible amount of momentum, and that momentum creates our current and our future success because it harnesses the ingenuity and resources embedded deep within our region from north to south. Today, we're asking you, all of us from today's program, to join us and chart a new course for our region.
Thank you so much, Ty, and thank you to each one of you for joining us today. This last year has been a sprint to develop the vision, the plan, and the partnerships to make a lasting impact on our region. Now the marathon of building a better future for all of us begins. We've only scratched the surface of the Reach 2030 plan with you in this hour. Our goal is to create 15,000 jobs by 2030, and we've shared 4 of the integrated strategic priorities to get us there. There is much more to unpack on our path moving forward. Each one of you will receive a link to the Reach 2030 plan directly following this event, or you can find it on our website at www.reachcentralcoast.org. And over the course of the next several weeks, we will be diving deeper into each one of our major initiatives, beginning with building a thriving commercial space enterprise at Vandenberg Air Force Base. Please mark your calendars for August 5th at 10 a.m. and we'll be sending you more details. Again, thank you so much for joining us today. An economic future that is built upon a vision that the Central Coast will be a place where all people have the opportunity to thrive is within our collective reach. Thank you. Just